Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the story of one of the craziest chess events in history. It is currently the evening here in Madrid, Spain. It's June 9th, 2024. And a 3-day chess event has just concluded in a winner. There was a winner of the event. But at the same time, the event was also suspended at the end and terminated early. In this video, I will break down all 3 days of the event. I will also tell you all the drama surrounding it, the behind-the-scenes negotiation, and the future. The event is called the Clash of Claims. And the Clash of Claims was a head-to-head match contested by former world champion of chess Vladimir Kramnik and Peruvian Grandmaster Jose Eduardo Martinez Alcantara. And the match was played 36 games. 18 of those games were to be played on laptops, and 18 of them were to be played on chessboards. And the nexus of this match, the reason this match happened or existed in the first place as a concept, was because Vladimir Kramnik, over the last few months in 2024 and late 2023, has essentially took it upon himself to call for transparency and anti-cheating in chess, is a very nice way to put it. But he does this by using his own sourced mathematical models where he posts people's chess results online and calls them mathematically improbable. One of these people was Jose Alcantara. And so people thought, why don't we organize a match like this? And so we did. And by we, I mean I'm here as the English commentator and some sort of promoter of the event, but all the efforts were made by David Martinez, International Master, El Divis, and Pepe Cuenca, Grandmaster. They organized the whole thing. And I helped where I could. This match was nuts. Vladimir Kramnik requested that the time control was 3+2. Jose agreed. He also requested that new computers were unboxed every single day at the venue to prevent tampering or any sort of suspicious that type of stuff. That was also agreed to. So, day number 1, the match began. On day number 1, the players sat down and they would play 6 games of physical games. Then they would play 6 games of online games. And then they would do the same every day. 6-6, 6-6, 6-6, 18-18. That later went on to change for reasons I will explain. In this match, Vladimir surveyed the French defense almost exclusively against Jose Martinez. Jose opted in the beginning for a Tarrasch, and he would play bishop to b5, followed by this variation where he would just get a very simple and straightforward pawn structure like this. And generally, Jose early on was playing simple positions, tactical positions at times, but for the most part, balanced games where he kind of got positions that he liked. And this was over the board. Face-to-face, physical over the board. Vladimir's hypothesis is there is a lot of people who are probably cheating online. And he pointed kind of his attention at Jose. Now, Jose in the first game of the match, or rather I should say the second game of the match, played in a way where he got just sort of long-term, lasting pressure against Vladimir. The position was pretty much in the balance, but you'll notice Jose is down on the clock. Physical, over-the-board chess. The hypothesis is this man will not be as good over the board. And these players had a very tense standoff, and right here with 21 to 34 seconds, he uncorks bishop to a7. Live, physical, over the board, bishop to a7, and this move turns the game into chaos. The idea is to deflect the queen from the defense of the rook on d8, hg, knight g6, and after a quick skirmish, Jose landed himself in a winning queen versus rook's endgame. Notice how both players have 5 seconds. They are gaining 2 seconds every single move. But it's crazy, it's chaotic, they're shuffling, but this is physical, this is not online. We are now in the 50 move area, and Jose Martinez actually struck first in this match. He won the second game. Now, the over the board was crazy in the beginning. Vladimir was surveying the Catalan, the opening that he probably modernized and added like so much theory to. This is his bread and butter, a queen's pawn opening with knight f3, g3. early on, Jose was playing bishop d6, knight c6. He was playing kind of a unique setup where black doesn't use the c-pawn, and he was going for positions where he would give up his a-pawn to damage Vladimir's structure, right? He would play like this, and he would trade oftentimes his dark-squared bishop, and Vladimir would get this typical Catalan position with the two bishops where he was applying some pressure. Now, by the way, I did interviews with both players before the event. All of the big picture anti-cheating stuff and accusing and not accusing and all this, that's already been covered. So if you want to see my interview with Jose Alcantara or with Vladimir Kramnik, I have posted it, and I will share my full thoughts at the end of this video. So Vladimir was doing Vladimir things. I mean, this man is probably a top 10 player of all time, and he is a surgeon, a very practical player. His endgame skills are really unmatched. And Jose, instead of trading rooks and probably just holding, quickly found himself swarmed by the rooks. And his time was low, 5 seconds versus 28. Vladimir got to his king and basically checkmated him on the outskirts of the board by playing h5 and h6. Now, the players went back and forth early, but the first 6 games of physical chess ended 3-3. It was 3-3. The score was 3-3. Jose was holding his own. He was supposed to be an underdog. Now, Vladimir claimed in interviews he thought he was the underdog in both formats, which I somehow cannot possibly believe, but maybe he thinks he's 48 and that's somehow when the brain stops working for chess. So now we will go to the online games. And this is where the drama begins. The online games begin. This is the first game. You see, same stuff, same normal stuff, right? E4, Vladimir opens up the center. And here, Vladimir very quickly, in the first online game they played, goes full in with his knight, gives up 2 pieces for the rook, and it's just worse. But you'll notice he's also down like 2 minutes on the clock. And Jose just has 2 pieces. I mean, he gets 2 bishops for a rook. It's a completely winning position. Look at Vladimir, 6 seconds versus 116. Now, I will remind you, the players unboxed brand new laptops, and you may be confused why the scoreline is a double loss. That's because they played one more game, right? That's because they played one more game, and the second game, Vladimir with the black pieces was winning. He was winning this game. It was a very complex game. Jose was winning at first. And look at these players with their time scramble. 6 seconds, 5 seconds. It was crazy. Vladimir was winning. And then he was completely winning. He had pushed his F-pawn the entire, look at Vladimir go. He's pushing the pawn all the way. Very complicated, very back and forth. But ultimately, the game ended in a draw. And Vladimir at this point indicated that on his screen, he was seeing, and I made a video about this on Twitter. I'm going to summarize it here in about a minute. So if you feel out of the loop, check my 8-minute video. Long story short, Vladimir was looking at his chess.com window where he was playing, and he had 3 seconds. But when the game finished, he had 40 or 30. His time completely readjusted. And he couldn't believe it. He wanted instant replay. The arbiter confirmed it. So everybody was like, what is going on? How does this happen, right? Because obviously Vladimir has been calling out, in his mindset, like chess.com for what, they're not publishing things and they need to, I'm calling for all these people to be investigated. They're sort of keeping silent. They're not posting statistics. They're not posting methodologies. They don't owe him a response. But that's what he's done, right? So, long story short, after about 12 hours, something like 12 hours, it was sort of confirmed that because of Vladimir's desire to open brand new laptops every single day to play this match, the laptops have to go through Windows updates. And if you skip some, or if you don't sync up your time zone correctly, there will be issues. And the players' computers were not synced up. They started their game on different time zones because Vladimir's hadn't been jumped an hour forward. He had a bunch of errors in his Windows events logs that the updates had not gone through. So at some point, Vladimir literally just disconnected from chess.com and desynced his time. And he was right. Like, it wasn't a conspiracy. There was no DDoS, which he threw that out there. And so on the second day, there was a chance the match would not continue because Vladimir was refusing to play any more games on chess.com. He said, I can't trust the time on my clock, etc. I can tell you, folks, I was there. I was present for various negotiations. He had on the line a software engineer and who was his point of contact. Everybody was discussing, but ultimately it was settled. The match would proceed. However, there would be concessions made. First of all, the games are reduced to 28 from 36 because of the stressful nature of the environment and the exhaustion. Second of all, Vladimir said those 2 online games should be invalidated because my clock was acting funny during those games. My clock was not synced up properly. Jose obliged. But Jose said, we will play 28 games. Vladimir originally had called for 24, I believe. Jose said, no, I'm not playing 24. I would like to play 28 games. They agreed. 14 online, 14 offline. And one more thing. Jose made a very big mistake in this match. Jose, after all of this, after all this drama with the games being forfeited and whatnot, on the first day he said, I will finish the match today on the board. I will play 10 games today on the board. And that was a mistake. Because even though he wanted to play, and I got to give the man some respect and credit for doing so, on the first day, remember, they're supposed to play 6 games on the board and 6 games on a computer, and they had played 6 and 2. So they finished, and Vladimir was doing very well. He was playing well. The games were complicated, but Jose ultimately lost 3 out of 4 points. And so day 1 ended 6-4 for Vladimir because of the cancellation of the 2 online games. So 6-4, we have to play 18 more games. You might be confused. You said, Levi, you said it was 36 games. Yes. In the renegotiations and all this chaos, Vladimir was right. There were problems with his clock because, but you could also argue it was because he wanted laptops unboxed. So that brought about the problem. I will let you all argue all of that. Point being, the players agreed to finish the over-the-board games on the second day of the match. And on the third day, they would play 14 games in a row online. So it's 6-4. I mean, that's a pretty big margin. Again, Vladimir is going to work. He's playing the Catalan. This time, Jose plays a slightly different system. He plays knight to e4. He plays a very solid system. He likes these kind of solid, cagey positions. Vladimir Kramnik, on the second day, played a phenomenal positional game. He took control of the dark squares. Jose created counterplay, but ultimately, Vladimir found himself in an endgame of 2-on-1, and he just showed the level. He showed the class. He showed, he showed like a very, very nice technique, and he got a winning queen endgame. He pushed this pawn, and Vladimir took a 3-game lead. And at this point, I was like, oh, Jose's in trouble. Jose's in trouble. I mean, there's no way around it. He's down 7-4, 7.5, 4.5. I mean, it's really, really bad. And yeah, I thought, wow. And Jose, throughout the match, had not shown much. He had not shown much in the French. I mean, he played a lot of these obscure lines. He was trying to take Kramnik out of his comfort zone, and he was really not getting much from the opening. Black is better here. I mean, at least Black is not worse. Queen c4, and I mean, Vladimir just got some really, like, this is the type of stuff Jose was getting in his games against Vladimir. I mean, there's just nothing here, right? Like, the position is completely symmetrical, completely equal. There is really just nothing here, and Jose was trying, but nothing was working. I mean, he was really trying to do. But then Vladimir got his rook trapped. Up 3 games in the match. This is physical. Over the board. Knight e3. A shot out of the dark. And Jose here, look at this pandemonium. You can't take the rook. Is knight e5. So he just leaves it there and then deflects the knight away from the rook. Amazing move. And he tricks Kramnik and wins the endgame. He was down 3 games. He was down 3 games, and it was not looking good. It looked like the over-the-board class was showing, but he clunches out a win in the penultimate game. And then the last game of the over the board, Jose had not been having a nice time in the Catalan. Yeah, he wasn't having a nice time, period, but he played like this. He played a stonewall. He got a very interesting position, and Vladimir and he just went. They're just absolutely just back and forth in this game. B5 attacking on the queen side, Jose attacking him on the king side. This is the last over-the-board game they get to play. Knight E4, Vladimir sacrificed a knight to open things up in the center of the board. Rook to B8. Queen takes G4 check. The bishop went back to G7. And in this game, it was chaos, absolute chaos, like tactics all over the board. Rook down, light squared bishop. So super complicated. Jose walked his king out into the center. But then you kind of started realizing, wait a minute, white just doesn't have enough pieces. White has enough pawns, but he doesn't have enough pieces. You need pieces to play. Bishop B3. And suddenly, it was a draw. It was a draw until, with 6 seconds remaining, the final dagger of the day, Vladimir blundered a skewer. From a 3-game lead, we go down to a 1-game lead. 7.5, 6.5. I thought it was over. I thought it was over. Because now, according to the new agreement, we have 14 games online in a row. Admittedly, they are not playing the time control of Title Tuesday, which is 3+1. They are playing 3+2, which benefits Vladimir. And they also have to take a break between games 8 and 9. Vladimir requested a 50-minute halftime break to rest and recover. Vladimir got a lot of things in this match. Out of respect maybe for his former world championship status, out of respect perhaps for the fact that he is older than his opponent, and 48 is probably not an easy age to play extremely high stakes chess for like 4 hours. I can understand, sure. But the players showed up and they have to play online. All the computers were verified, scanned, updated, completely synced up. Chess.com engineers were watching to make sure that there was no server desync, nothing like that. And we were underway. It was another Catalan, and these guys played literally only Catalan and only French this entire match. And the first game, Jose was quite confrontational. The game got very spicy early on. Queen G4, and Jose had a nice position, but after some shuffling, after some very nice defensive skills of creating, this barrier, this blockade on D6, Jose, in the online portion where he is supposed to be the favorite, allows Rook C7 and blunders a fork, which is crazy. I mean, that, you talk about an unexpected plot twist. This is an online game. This is official, sanctioned. Like, it's not canceled, nothing. And Jose is down 2 games again. And he's down 2 games again. Crazy. But he was not to be denied. And Jose continued to play around with different Catalan setups. He played in a way where he started chasing Vladimir's bishop. And then he would return and basically, like, this is a draw offer. Like, if white wants to repeat moves, you can. And Jose would bait Kramnik with this kind of draw offer every time he put his bishop there. So Vladimir started putting it in the center or delaying the development a little bit. And in this game, Jose was pushed back a bit by Vladimir, the positional skills. But then Jose uncorked this epic knight jump, and the game got very tactical, very complicated. Knight G4 coming in to take the F2 pawn. Vladimir might have good chances here with the outside past A pawn. It's very, very tricky. We start trading pieces. Now Vladimir pushes the pawn to A5. I mean, definitely white has to be playing this position for a win. Black plays pawn to F6. Okay, all of this is kind of stopped and thwarted. All right, knight to D2. The bishop goes back. And it looked like it was over. I mean, it just looked like Vladimir was gonna pressure and pressure and pressure, and he was doing exactly what he had been doing throughout the match. But then he blundered his A pawn. He blundered the most important pawn on the board. Now we have knight E6, knight C4. All right, and the game completely spins out of control. Now it's an equal endgame, but at this point I predicted that Vladimir was going to lose this game. Why? Because it's being played online, and a time scramble online with the elements of lag, the mouse, everything. That's where the online specialty comes in. That's what we're contesting here, that ultimately you can be an online specialist, a 3,100, 3,000 rated blitz player on chess.com, and it's fine. And that's sort of what we are fighting for. And Jose, it was blunders both sides. I mean, at some point, Vladimir blundered like a fork. First of all, he blundered his pawn. Second of all, he blundered knight f3 check. He just completely blundered a fork. Jose didn't see it. A little while later, he blundered something else that was completely crazy. I don't exactly remember where it was. He made another really crazy mistake, blundering a fork, but ultimately he lost in the scramble, and king h5, king h4, and he found himself in a losing endgame. And at some point, Jose won 3 games in a row, and he took his first lead in the match since the game I showed you at the beginning of the video. Jose led 1.5 to half, and then he did not lead again. He tied the match 3-3, and he tied the match a couple of other times, but because there was such a heavy emphasis on over the board first, he always trailed. And his online wins were invalidated because of the time and the sync. So he took the lead by winning this game. Now, one really kind of hilarious thing was that after, I think, every game, Vladimir of the online games, Vladimir Kramnik was saying he was experiencing lag. And in the scrambles, he was seeing Jose's time would flash at 0, and then he would gain some time back. Jose said the same thing was happening. And yeah, I mean, this, like, the servers and the time, like, we need to figure out a way that if we're going to have these high stakes events, this is not happening. This is a very recent phenomenon that I've seen where, like, my opponent has 0, but the game is going on for half a second more. And the players were saying that at times that was happening. So Vladimir took a 20-minute break at some point, not the official break. He took a break to literally pull out a pen and paper, and they calculated every move of each player. You know, on chess.com, it shows you how much time you spent. So they calculated every single move. They summed all of that up. Then they took, like, the time remaining. They took all the time elements, and they made a calculation of how long the game was going on. And Vladimir was saying the game, like, somebody had a stopwatch, and the stopwatch was longer than the game itself. Or, long story short, I think he was basically just saying they were having lag. But so was Jose. And Kramnik was saying he didn't like that, and it might have been affecting one or both of them unfairly. But the first thing that happened to him was completely, like, bad. It should not have happened, but I think they were just experiencing lag. That's all to say that in the online, Jose was doing his thing. I mean, he was beating Vladimir in scrambles. Vladimir was the better chess player for about 60 to 70% of this match, but Jose was resilient. He was a fighter. He was out-prepared, but he had guts, and ultimately he won a bunch of games in these tense time scrambles late in the game, just preserving his nerves a bit better. And ultimately, this game, like game 27 or something like that, there was a moment, I mean, Vladimir just didn't take this pawn back, and he ultimately got completely tied up by Jose's bishops. He got completely tied up by his rooks. His pieces were forced back into a little cube, and Jose just surgically, precisely carved up the position, got up a queen. The black pieces were all scattered. Rook d1, and with this win, he won the match. He took a lead 14.5 to 11.5 after 26 games. So 3-point lead with 2 games to go. So he won. But that's actually not the end of the story. Because I'm not even sure if the players, I didn't know if the players knew they were just going to play all the games out, you know, to see if it would be close or if he would win by 5 games. I think they agreed to play out all the games. There was this final game. And there was this game. Vladimir was playing. And here, Jose played a4, cd, cd, and completely gave up this pawn. He just blundered a pawn. I think he thought that white was going to play like b3 or knight bd2, like he had in the previous game. This time he went here, and Jose, like, just because I think he had already, I mean, look at Jose's time, 3:15. He's gaining so much time, 2 seconds bonus. Jose played this game quite poorly. I have a feeling it's because he had already known that he won the match, so he kind of relaxed. It's very much a phenomenon. Not to take anything away from Kramnik. In the tactical skirmish, Vladimir emerged with a completely winning position. Completely winning. So it's going to be 14.5, 12.5 with 1 game to go in the match. Except that was not the end of the story, because after Rook C7, Bishop F1, Vladimir lost on time. And what had happened was he played Bishop to F1, and Jose went Queen A5. And apparently, the move Queen A5 appeared on some people's boards and not Vladimir's. It was a server problem. And that has happened. You may, I mean, some of you have experienced this probably. Like, I had this once or twice in a Title Tuesday where my opponent had made a move and I just never saw it. And I flagged. But I never saw it on my screen. Yeah. Would you believe it that the chess gods got to Kramnik twice? First, it was the whole concept of the unboxing of the new laptops. You could argue self-inflicted, considering, you know, he wanted that. He wanted the new laptops. He was the deserved winner of this game. And because this game never reached a conclusion, the match was canceled. The players decided they would not play a final game. Even if Vladimir won this game and the next game, he would lose the match 14.5 to 13.5. Jose would be the winner 8-6 in the games played on the computers, and he would be the loser 7.5 to 6.5 in the physical. So ultimately, the first ever Clash of Claims, and hopefully not the last, concludes with, I suppose you can argue, 14.5 to 11.5 score with 2 games canceled, although I'm willing to give Kramnik that second to last game. He was completely winning. You could say 14.5 to 12.5 with 1 game outstanding, not contested, because the players were tired and didn't want to deal with any of this anymore. None of us kind of did, but it was an interesting spectacle. There were a lot of takeaways. Watch my on Twitter. Maybe I'll upload the Kramnik interview that I did after the match had ended, and the interview with Jose. I was with my good friend, International Master Alex Ostrovsky. He's playing a chess tournament here with me, which starts tomorrow. Yeah, I've summarized it a lot, but I would say that Jose more than proved himself. And Vladimir said that this experiment did not meet, he is not satisfied with the results. He doesn't like the concept of the lag. He doesn't like the server issues. He doesn't feel like it met standards for a professional event. I mean, of course, it's not completely unexpected, I should say, but yeah, there was a lot of mixed talking points. There was talking points like, why was Kramnik given the platform at all? And then my response to that was, I completely understand your viewpoint if you think that he's being dangerous and aggressive with his actions and so on. But I think Jose proved himself. 7.5, 6.5 in the over the board. Considering the 4 games he didn't have to play on the first day and he was quite stressed and annoyed. Considering the online games, like, he proved himself. And I think there's others out there like Jose who perform extremely well online, and they can prove themselves if challenged like this. Did this in any way, shape, or form? There was another narrative that Jose beats Kramnik a lot more online than this match. I get it. On the flip side, they play 3+1, and they're not playing each other for 3 straight days. There is a whole different dynamic when you play a match. You just saw like 40 games of the same 2 openings. Play someone in a Title Tuesday or just a Blitz game online, you play some random nonsense, they're losing on time, they're distracted. It's very different, I have to say. Yeah, I mean, look, I think I said everything I wanted to say. Like, there are some very interesting takeaways, absolute chaos and cinema and drama, a lot of discussion points. And are there still cheaters out there? Probably. Absolutely. But Jose Martinez stepped up. Jose Alcantara, I don't even know. His name is listed differently on different places. And I think he shut a lot of people up. I think he made a lot of fans. He he was great, and he was very resilient, and he should be happy. Vladimir wasn't happy, but then he also said he would play Clash of Claims 2 against Hikaru Nakamura. So one of the craziest chess events of all time is over. 36 games originally, reduced down to 28 games. Only 26 were played. You could argue 27. Jose Alcantara wins the match. And it was very close, and that's all I have for you. And June 10th to 15th, I'm playing the Madrid Chess Festival. Get out of here.